The economy is still dying, and yet we have a decadent public reaching and wanting more. But perhaps the two are interrelated. Let's go into Janet Yellen, one of the elite on top of this general public, saying that there is a high degree of accommodation still needed. And of course, Janet Yellen is the proponent who wanted negative interest rates if it was possible. So they want your money being stolen not just through inflation, but through negative interest rates. And what is she saying here? That inflation was well short of the Fed's goals. They want to keep that rate under 2%. And of course, the only way they can get there is by manipulating the numbers as they do. I've gone into this before, but essentially they're using numbers that couldn't possibly be real. They couldn't represent the actual cost of living increase, because when you don't include energy and when you don't include food and other things, of course you can get the rate down to 2%. All they have to do is continuously subtract the things that are going in, and of course it's going to seem like that. If they the way they do this is totally fraudulent. I've gone into it before, won't get into it on this video. So she gets into saying that the rate is going to stay near zero, the interest rates here, for a considerable time after the Fed ends its bond purchase program. So they brought the whole bond buying program from 85 billion a month down to 65 billion. They did this over 2 consecutive times, and it very well could go down again to 55 and so on and so forth. But how do we really know what they're printing? How do we really know that these numbers are actually legitimate? Because as we were told with a $16 trillion bailout, we got all the numbers and we saw that their balance sheet and the amount they printed during that time is completely, they don't match up at all. So where is this money going? Of course, it's totally off the books. The numbers that we're getting are totally fraudulent. I'll get to that in a moment. Essentially, what I wanted to get to here is that they said at some point they're going to stop this bond buying program, and a short period of time later, they can then let the interest rates rise. But you can be sure of one thing, that the interest rates are going to stay at 0% for the foreseeable future. So speaking of the asset purchases here, look at the Fed's balance sheet. It went over $4 trillion recently. And you can see I chose from the year 2000 on purpose, but basically there was a steady line continuously increasing their balance sheet year over year. That's what was happening. And then all of a sudden, the whole economy began to collapse, and this is like stairs going up consistently. Every bailout, every single time they do this, the Fed's balance sheet skyrockets up instantly. So what happened to that 16 trillion? Where is it? It's not on here and will not be included. However, even just this number, you can see that in just such a short period of time, they multiplied all the money that was created before it, and then in like a year's span created more money. This is so unbelievable. How could this possibly be sustainable? And the fact is that it's not. But if you ask Jamie Dimon, he says that the massive 4.5 trillion balance sheet is actually small. That's how they manipulate these things, because they can get this out to the public, and Business Insider pushes their agenda out to the public, and of course they will just read it and they'll think, sure, Jamie Dimon knows what he's talking about. He's one of the biggest in this industry, and when you take his word for it. However, when you have $4.5 trillion that they're willing to admit, what is there behind the shadows that they're not admitting? And of course, 4.5 trillion is extremely significant. Then just because he says that there's a lot more money out there in assets, that the 4 trillion doesn't really make a difference. Well, the fact remains is that it does make a difference, and it makes a big difference. So, it's not just the US that's doing this. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Once one domino falls, they will all fall down. Japan right now is under a debt burden. It's mounting, according to this article out of Bloomberg here, and it shouldn't surprise anyone when they've been printing like crazy for decades and now done an unprecedented trillions of yen being printed right now in order to try to get the economy moving again, and it has no effect on it whatsoever. Why? Because you can't pump blood into this dead carcass that is this economy and try to have it continue to live. It doesn't work like that. The economy's dead, and the more jobs they ship overseas and the more bailouts you give to the banks, it's not going to help it at all. All you're doing is taking money from the middle class and you're funneling it to the elite. That's the message of my video today. Hope that you'll all get onto the Money GPS Insiders, which is basically some work that I have done, and I'm continuing to put it out there. It is in addition to the work I've done in my book, and a lot of people have been emailing me on there. That's what I want. I want you guys to email me on the Insiders. Tell me what you think. Tell me your opinions of the world, the economy, of the emails I send out, and everything, and we can correspond through there. If you want to get on there, it's at the bottom of the moneygps.com. You just put in your email address, and you'll be hearing from me.